Get up. Damn it. Stuck to my leg. Ugh. What's up, everybody? Today we have the Peavey Valve King. You know, it's very mixed emotions about it, you know, because it's so cheap. But I'm telling you guys, we can turn this thing into a beast. And this is going to be an I don't know how many parts video, but we're going to go through from a busted amp to a modded, killing, super duper awesome amp. Let's do this stuff. All right, so what I want to do first is kind of go through the mods that people do, the quick and easy ones, which you can do, anybody could do, as long as you have a few spare parts like cables and stuff like that. First, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to this amp, because to tell you the truth, it was broken, and I had to figure out how to get that up and running to a middle ground. Now, there is still a pretty crappy hum going on here. Don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's something else I do need to figure out. But I think changing out the electrolytic filter caps on this guy will probably help fix that, just because they're old, and I plan on doing that. So this is going to be a project of me just going through this Peavey Valve King, because I can't find a really good series of videos of someone taking one of these things and really going through it and making it awesome, because I know it can be awesome. There's the Mesa mod, there's the JCM 800 mod, and then there's the R100 mod. We're going to go through all those, and I am going to install a DP-DT switch so I can go between the Mesa and the JCM, you know, and just do a bunch of stuff. So we'll see where this video takes us. Well, this series of videos. But I just wanted to get this one first out there of the stock Valve King, and then go through some of the typical mods that people would do before actually getting in and modding the actual amp. Because right now, it sounds pretty killer. It sounds pretty, it's definitely usable. My guitar player in one of my bands, he's had one of these things for years. And remember when we were playing in a band, when I was a guitar player in a band with him, he would use the Valve King, and I was using like a 6505 or 5152, same thing. It was definitely a contender. Let me just say, I was surprised. All right, so let's just go over some of the mods that these people typically do with it, okay? First things first. The first mod that people think of is putting a patch cable into the effects loop, okay? So first we're gonna play with this, we're gonna jam on it and get it a bass line, and then we'll start putting the mods in, okay? So let's hear what this thing sounds like, right? This has got EMGs in it, and I love this guitar. I'm gonna make a whole video about this guitar. It's a little story about it, but I'm sure you guys would love it. So, all right, so here it is. On stock, on the lead channel, the boost is in. Let's turn the boost off. Let's turn the gain off. What else do I have? Okay, yeah, so we're just on the lead. Who cares about the clean and all that stuff, right? But I will get a bass line for you in case those mods do something different for the clean channel too. All right, so here's what it sounds like with the gain. Let's do halfway, okay? Gain halfway, all right. Okay, yeah, it's all right. Typically from here, I would want a little more gain. The presence and the resonance is both around 3 o'clock or so, just above it. I I pulled the knobs off because I've been working on this and I don't want to have to keep on taking them off, putting them on, but just I wanted to get a good reference of the ones that I typically use. Let's go ahead and put everything back at noon just so you guys can get that reference there. So, all right, so everything is at noon now. This reverb. I heard something about if you disconnect the reverb that it adds a little bit of low end. We'll find out too. So here it is, all at noon without me messing with the EQ. Oop. So it definitely needs a little help. It sounds pretty martially, to tell you the truth, as is. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead and let's engage the gain boost here and just see what that sounds like. Here's with the gain on. There we go. There we go. Now we're talking, all right? EQ wise, what would I want from it? I think the gain is pretty perfect where it's sitting. Let's turn that off and just see how much gain there is whenever I push the gain up all the way without the boost on. See, it starts to get all flubby. That's what these preamp tubes do when you start pushing them really hard. They bring up the, it just compresses basically, right? So no, I don't like that. Put in the gain thing again. And let's bring it up just a little bit, a hair, to about 1 o'clock or so. That's it right there. Let's bring in a little bit of treble, right? Let's cut the mids a little bit. Maybe a little more. So it's probably about 9 o'clock now. For all you mid scoopers that, you know, or mid scoop haters, let's bring it up to 3 o'clock for you. That sounds pretty good too, though. Nine o'clock. I like that just because it sounds throatier, you know. It's just hits down below. Okay, so the mid's just back a little bit. I like that. Let's bring up the bass. It's about 2 o'clock. Woohoo! like that a lot. All right, let's go over to cleans so you guys can have a baseline of that. So I have a baseline too, so I can go back and listen to it. And let's switch over to the channel. All right. Okay, let's put everything at noon, because I like to mess with EQ knobs all the time. Bright is not in. There we go. Really pleasant sounding. I dig that. Sounds good, right? Cool. Let's go ahead and hit the bright on. Ooh, yeah. Really bright. A little too bright for me. But let me just say that this amp does really awesome, to tell you the truth. I was very surprised when I picked it up and actually started to dial it in. That's the funny thing about it. It's like, there's so many people who say, oh, that's cheap, that's crap, you know? But go ahead and try to dial it in first before you say that, you know? This really turned out as an awesome amp, you know? For cheap. Yes, there's cheap components in it and stuff, but you can always upgrade that yourself for an even cheaper and more reliable, after you do some stuff to it, than some of the more expensive amps. I should do the Peavey Valve King against the Bugera one day, because I do love this Bugera very much, especially after the negative feedback mod to this thing. All right, so let's go back over to the lead. Let's find out if this reverb does anything, because I saw something online that it actually gives it a little more grunt. I don't know. I've never heard that before. Let's give it a shot. Because I know the Ultra, the Peavey Ultra, whenever you disconnect the reverb on that, it acts like a little bit of a presence. So within this circuit, however it's hooked up, I wonder if that's not the presence, but it said there's more grunt to it. But let's find out. All right, so this is, all right, we got it set the way we like it. All right, let's go halfway with the reverb without it being connected. Turn it off. I ain't hearing anything. Let's go all the way up. All the way down. I'm just going to turn the knob as I do this. Let me try a regular chord. Nah, not, at least not on this one. And maybe they had it partially hooked up where they would have the actual the connector on the reverb connector there. But I'm not hearing a difference personally. Now let's talk about the actual mods that people do that's pretty easy to do as long as you have a couple extra cables and stuff. Let's talk about the first one, which is the effects loop patch cable mod. All right. So it basically acts like it's always connected, and it does not disengage the effects loop at all. So you can still plug in something in the loop and still have it work just fine. But I think it just always acts like it's on. So let's hear the difference between that and using the patch cable in the effects. All right, so this is what it is on stock, which I really like that. It sounds awesome. Let's see if we can pull the blanket from it. All right, so we're gonna go, oops, put it in the send, and then put it in the return. All right, here again. Without. And with it in. Out. All right, so I knew that was going to work, and yes, it definitely did lift the blanket off the amp. This is naturally a dark amp, and adding that effects loop definitely helps it out a lot. Now, granted, I do have the treble up a little bit, the presence up at 3 o'clock or so, so it's pretty, you know, pretty high frequency set at this moment. So I would definitely, I like the fact that you can have more range of the high end because it is such a dark amp. So yeah, I definitely agree that that's a good mod to put on this guy. Should I leave it in? Yeah, let's leave it in and let's tailor it to it with it in. Okay. Let's bring the presence back to about noon. Still pretty high, to tell you the truth. I'm going to bring the treble back to noon. Now let's bring the presence in a little bit. Okay, that's good. All right, so now let's go to the second mod, which is putting a 1/4 inch jack. And you know, it's basically a conversion from 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch. So really anything that will engage input jacks is going to work for you. You could use just a regular cable too if you wanted to. So the idea is that whenever you put both of them in there, it's going to bring in more input gain and kind of combine them together, the 1 and the 2. 1 is the high gain input and 2 is the low gain input. What I want to find out is it actually more gain whenever we have both of them in there compared to just having it plugged into 1, which is the high gain input. So that's my question. Let's find that out, right? So let's go ahead and do some chugs. You know, maybe we should do a lower gain so we can hear the gain difference. That's probably a good idea. Let's bring it back to about, what is that? I don't know, 10 o'clock or so. That way I can tell if it actually does bring in more gain. All right, just so you guys can get a reference, when we plug into 2, so it definitely brings the gain down, okay? Let's go back into 1 just to get the reference again. Okay, and you're supposed to put it in input 2, and then take your little jack and put it in 1. There we go. And let's go back to 1. Okay, put it back into 2. Let's try this. Plug into 1 and put the jack into 2. Pull it out. Put it back in. Out. I'm probably going to have to edit this together so we can really hear the difference. Okay, let's put it back into 2. And put this into 1. I don't know, man. I might have just debunked that that myth. Might get a lot of hate comments for that one. But you know, I'm really just doing this just to find out. And going back to back, I will go back and edit it, if you guys probably already heard it, them together just so we can actually hear the gain difference. And I brought the gain down so we can hear if there's a slight difference in it at all. I personally am not hearing it. That's kind of unfortunate, but that's just what I got. Maybe it's just this amp. I'm not saying that it's fake news, whatever you call it. I'm just saying that it's not working for me on this one. All right. I think that's pretty much the mods that I wanted to go through to show you guys. Obviously, this is a absolutely killer amp. I'm going to go into my little room where I actually do some amp work and stuff, and I'm going to open it back up, and I'm going to show you guys some of the problems that I had. And it's a funny story, but I had some issues trying to figure out the short with this one, and I'll show you exactly what that is. Let's go to the other room. So here she is. This thing has caused me hell for about 2 months now. Some of the things that I've kind of experienced with this thing. When I first got this, we'll start there. When I first got this, it had a blown fuse here, which is, I believe this is running off of the bias supply here. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and replace that guy, see what happens, put it on my limiter, which I have over here, and see if they're still short. Got to a point where it blew another fuse, which is this guy right here, which is the high voltage. So I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I went around, checked the power supply section here. Everything seemed good there. And I went through the schematic and followed the high voltage line and tried to figure out what was going on over here. I even pulled out these filter caps which they're a pain in the butt because they have this stupid like glue around it that like is impossible to get up. This caught fire at one point. As you can see, it's a little burnt up over here. I had to replace that resistor right there because it was gone. It blew. So I guess my first thing was thinking about these heater, the diodes that run that, the heater section, and those were open. So I went ahead and replaced those, and you know, since I was in it, I went ahead and replaced the ones over here as well in the high voltage side. And you know, I mean, everything seemed okay, you know, but I was still getting my light bulb limiter to pop up saying like you still got a short somewhere. So believe me, I've taken this board out, I've looked on the underside, tried to figure out what was going on there, changed out these caps, this cap. I haven't done those yet. I do plan on doing these because I still got a hum that I can't figure out where it's coming from. I've even taken this cap out, which is part of the preamp section, and I have my ESR reader that I was going through and stuff. So then I was looking on the schematic and stuff, and I noticed that this guy here was backwards. And I don't know that you can see here. I'll bring it closer. Let's see. If you guys can see this one on the PCB, if you look there right above the brown cable, and you can't see that, but it's labeled on the PCB that is brown or blue. Where that brown is blue, and obviously the red is center tap. And this is for the output transformer, by the way. Goes here, and it's labeled brown right there. You can't really, all the stupid glues around it, but you can kind of see it. Anyways, that was backwards when I first got it, but I didn't really experience any issues with it so far when I was messing with that. So I had to kind of figure out, okay, well, maybe it's backwards. Funny thing is, when I flipped it around, in this stupid little plastic connector, I took that out and just went ahead and soldered to the board. What was happening then is my presence and resonance was backwards. So backwards meaning like when I would turn it towards 0, it would get like there would be more resonance. But when I went towards 10, it would be less. But same thing with the presence too. So that's something to keep in mind, is that whatever's on the board, do the opposite of that and turn it around. And I think it came that way factory, but you know, I was just trying to follow the schematic, and that kind of screwed me there too. The other thing is the foot switch over here, the little 10 ohm resistor that was sitting there was blown too. So I don't know if I still have it sitting around here, but anyways, it was blown. So I went ahead and put a 10 ohm resistor right there for the foot switch. I even had to change out the diodes that run alongside the delay switches here, because it wasn't switching. These relays, I think it's this one and this one that are connected together, and there's a diode D103 that I replaced that fixed that issue. So I've been through it with Sam, let me tell you, just to get it back to a working point so I could start doing these mods on this thing. So yeah, that's pretty much all the things that I've went through so far. Oh, I didn't tell you guys why there was a short. So after going through this whole board and learning a whole bunch about it that I didn't really need to know, the reverb pan. So the reverb pan screws to the top of the chassis, right? If you can see, let's take a look at these. You see these little grommets on here? Oops, not with my hand. See those grommets right there? Well, whoever installed this reverb pan put some new screws in. Look at that. This was actually making contact with this board. So believe me, I went through this so many times through the preamp section trying to figure this out, but I just couldn't figure out what was making the short. And it was a freaking screw that was touching the PCB for the preamp section every time I installed it. I couldn't believe it, man. Like, after I pulled that reverb off, I didn't have it short anymore. Long story short, I learned a lot from this amp, and I do appreciate that I did, but damn, it really made me question myself on this stuff. Anyways, thought I'd go through that. This is the end of the part 1 for this series. I don't know how many parts this is going to be, but I'm going to do those mods to this, and we're going to find out, you know, how good this is after those mods. I really like it the way it is. Obviously, I'm going to change out these filter caps to see if that takes away the hum. I even coiled this up a little better to see if that would help out. Didn't. But yeah, that's about it. And see you on the next one.